And we're back. Welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. My name is Jay and Gerald coming to you live. And we are talking about an interesting topic today. And we're hearing a lot about this, even if you're not in the market for a vehicle. We're talking about, are we ready for electric vehicles here in the United States? And we are going to hit all those topics when we come back next.
Have you ever felt like you were taken for a ride while buying, selling, or repairing your car? Well, not anymore. I'm Jay, and this is the podcast to tell you what to watch out for, whether you are buying, selling, or repairing your car. With over 26 years of automotive experience, we are the Auto Authorities. This podcast is sponsored by iAutoAgent.com. We're real estate agents for cars.
Yeah, welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. I'm Jay. That's Gerald. We're coming to you live, and we're going to talk about EVs today. Are we ready for EVs? But before we get going, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Let's start with iAutoAgent.com. At iAutoAgent.com, they will help businesses with fleets of vehicles at no cost to the business to sell that vehicle, let them stay focused on their business, get a maximum amounts of money for their vehicle, as well as the finding the very, very hard to find fleet vehicles, new or pre-owned, again, allowing you to stay focused on your business. We are still helping individuals as well. And then we have Gerald Bentley with Dealership Rescue and Wrestling with Sales. Gerald, welcome.
Yeah, hey, how's it going today? And congratulations on being the top used car dealer in St. Louis. That's really neat.
Yeah, St. Louis Magazine voted us the top pre-owned dealer in St. Louis, and we beat out the largest dealership groups possibly. They're ranked very high in the country too, not just here in Missouri. But thank you. It's a huge feat. We've got an amazing staff. We really, really do. And if you guys are just joining us too, before we get going, subscribe to the Auto Authorities on YouTube. It is an amazing site that will give you tons of information. We've been doing this for over 2.5 years. Coming to you live also on Facebook. We have a Facebook group page, the Auto Authorities Podcast. You can simply hit the join group button and watch us live 12 p.m. Central Time on Tuesdays. We're also broadcasting on LinkedIn now. And if that's not enough, we have 19 other different channels to listen to the Auto Authorities, iTunes, Pandora, you name it. And you could even go to our website, theautoauthorities.com, and leave us comments. We want to hear, don't we want to hear feedback, Gerald? We want to hear feedback and hear what you guys want to talk about, because what we're talking about today is, are we ready for electric vehicles?
Is the revolution actually coming?
Yeah.
And you know, what's really jumping out, because it's coming sooner than you would think. Guess what brand right now is up the highest percentage in sales for the year?
Hyundai.
No. It surprised me. Buick.
Really?
Buick is up 400%. Now, obviously, some of that's because their supply was super low and now they're kind of catching up. But doesn't it seem weird that when you're up that much, you just had a vehicle, the Envision, which is their midsize SUV, was named as one of the best luxury vehicles available on the market, best affordable luxury vehicles. It seems kind of weird that you're going to kill them and go to all electric, doesn't it? Because GM dealers, I talk with a bunch of them, they're not really clicking through the electric vehicles, and the one they have been selling, the Volt, is going bye-bye. So
yeah,
the question is, how ready are the manufacturers, the dealers, and the country in general to go to EVs?
Yeah, they don't have I don't think they have enough supplies available for the amount of volume that they're wanting to do. And some of the places where you get these supplies, like China and overseas, uh, we're pretty much at their mercy to get those supplies, and then they could pretty much name their price. And I just don't see it. I don't see how they're also going to keep the costs down, because when supply is low, the costs go up.
Yeah. Well, now costs will probably start dropping because if you've been following the headlines, there's a massive investment going on in EV battery plants. Um, from where I'm sitting, about an hour away, there is currently a $4 billion factory being built to make EV batteries by Panasonic. They just announced a huge one in Michigan for Ford. There's a huge battery complex going up in Indiana. Hyundai's building one in South Carolina. So some of the production is coming to the US, and there's also microchip factories that are being built currently in Texas, in Columbus, Ohio, which will kind of help alleviate some of that supply chain lockups that you're still getting in the auto industries. It's just, as you imagine, it takes a while to build a gigantic factory, but it still doesn't mean you have everything you need. And that's kind of coming out in the headlines this week. Our friends at the Stellantis Group, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, they made really a pretty interesting announcement this week. They are going to stop selling their hybrid and electrified vehicles, their EV plug-in versions of the Jeep Wrangler, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, the Pacifica minivan, in all but the 14 states that follow the new California emissions requirements. So if you're not living in one of those states, you can't just go to a dealership and get a plug-in hybrid Wrangler, which so happens to be the most popular Wrangler version. So if you're in Missouri, Arkansas, Indiana, really a lot of the states, only 14 states are going to be able to have them. The other states are going to get the gasoline only versions. That seems to be a really weird way to handle a legislation and a requirement, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, oh boy, like, and Jeeps get horrible gas mileage. I mean, they really do. So if you're buying a gas version Jeep, it's going to be a lot different than the hybrid version. That's for sure.
And how about for the dealerships? How would you like to be a Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram dealer in Youngstown, Ohio, where you are minutes away from Pennsylvania? You can't carry them. The dealership across the street can. Same thing
Uh,
if you're in Wisconsin and you're just on the side of the border from Gurnee, Illinois.
mm,
Gurnee is the last big suburb of Chicago. There's a ton of dealerships there. The Jeep dealer in Gurnee, they'll have the plug-in hybrid Wrangler.
mm.
The one in Wisconsin, the only way customers are going to be able to get them there is they'll have to order the car directly from the factory. And it'll be about a 3-month wait, and then they'll get it with their name on the window sticker.
Holy cow. Yeah, the whole thing with EVs, and I know a lot of people are crazy about them, but depending on where you live too. So, like, if you live in California, you're going to have like a lot of charging stations all over. But if you come to St. Louis, there's not many of them here. And
Yeah.
it's very inconvenient. And I remember we had a Tesla in our system for iAuto Agent, and I thought, oh well, it'd be cool to just drive a Tesla around. And so I remember at the time I was living with my mother and father-in-law because our new house was being built. I'm like, hey, have you ever ridden in a Tesla? Wouldn't it be really fun? And they're like, oh yeah, that would be fun. So it was like, probably close to 100 degrees in August
Uh-huh.
of 2020. Get in the thing, and it had like 80 or 90 miles left on the thing. So I'm like, oh, we'll drive around a little bit, and and where I had it at the where I had it at the house, there was no charger.
Sure.
So I start driving the thing, and all of a sudden, it is just like dropping, 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 and now it's saying like 30 miles left, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, we're gonna run out of not gas, charge,
Yeah.
and we're turning off the. We're turning off the air conditioner, we're turning off the lights, we're turning off the radio because everything uses that
Sure.
battery, and it was very deceiving. It was really crazy. And then we had to try to find a charging place, and the charging place was like 30 minutes away. And I'm like, I don't even know if we're gonna make it. And my son's sitting in the driver's seat. He's like, oh my god, we're gonna just get stuck on the side of the road. And my mother-in-law's 80 years old. It's freaking hot.
Yeah. And good luck pushing the Tesla because it weighs about 9,000 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
But, yeah, that's something to consider too. I remember when the Toyota Priuses first came out, you had to start them every day in the winter because the cold weather drains the temperature or drains the battery life, just like the hot weather that you get in lots of the country. It eats up the battery life because you're gunning the air conditioning. So the mileage range that you see isn't really the mileage range that you get.
No.
It's the range if you're driving at 45 to 65 miles an hour by yourself without the air conditioning on in a 45 to 70 degree day without much wind. That doesn't happen all that often.
And one of the things that drives me nuts about Tesla is everything is a closed system. So anything you need, I don't care if it's an update, I don't care if you wreck your car, everything has to come from Tesla, and they do not have the best customer service.
Well, I think they're overwhelmed.
Well, yeah, of course they are.
Yeah.
They grew too fast, and now it's like, oh, okay. Like, I kid you not, if you get in an accident, we'll have a insurance agent on, because if you get in an accident in those things, number one, to get parts for that, it could be a year before your car, and it's a fortune when you get in an accident in a Tesla. So I think that now that all these other manufacturers are getting these EVs, like Hyundai's a really big one. I mean, they all have them.
Everybody's trying now.
But I think that they're going to give Tesla a run for their money, because I think the infrastructure is going to be way better because they're already set up with their, service departments and body shops. And you can't get aftermarket parts for a Tesla, like it has to come from Tesla.
Well, the bright side of that is if you're a Tesla owner and you're concerned that it may take a year or two to get the parts to fix your vehicle after an accident, don't worry about it, because the battery is integrated into the frame and they're not repairable, they're recyclable. So what that means is if you got something that would have been, maybe you get T-boned, and in a regular car, you'd need a couple of door skins, maybe a C-pillar. In a Tesla, it's totaled, you need a new car. So you don't have to worry that much about getting the parts because they're probably going to total the car anyways.
Therefore, and again, we'll have an insurance
Not really
agent,
a good thing, but
they're also like the insurance rates are higher for those. I got a question. What do you think about with all these manufacturers now? Like, and there are tons of them. They all have EVs. Who's going to win and who's not going to win?
That's a good question because everybody's trying. One of the manufacturers that was really, I think you could easily say, latest to the game, Toyota, they just brought out the BZ4X. It's their first electric vehicle, and it's gotten pretty mixed reviews because it only has a range around 225 miles, which, doesn't really compare with some of the other ones out there. But, Jay, like you were saying, you got into a Tesla with 80, 90 miles of range and you almost ran out of electricity and you had only driven a few minutes.
Yeah.
So even the ones with high range, it's really not enough, and that's holding people back. Toyota actually just had a press conference earlier this week. They announced a new EV development lab in Michigan, and they went ahead and said that they're going to have a 900-mile range solid state battery EV coming out sometime after 2026. So that could be a game changer. And you would think the company that revolutionized manufacturing, instituted Kaizen into their manufacturing process, if they're really committed to it, they're probably going to be a big impact player, if not just be a winner. A 900-mile range, that's a lot of time between charges.
Yeah, and now you've got my attention. So like I've been thinking like, okay, I really think that everybody will either have some type of an EV or hydrogen powered something. And I'm thinking, at what point do I get into that market myself personally, like as a family? Like when do we get one? And I know, like, in my mind, like, there's no way. I got to have like gas stations, like, if there's not enough charging stations where I live, that's scary. I don't want to ever have that issue.
Well, I mean, they are kind of branching out. I don't know if you saw Ford and GM recently reached a deal with Tesla to use the Tesla charging networks, which right now have been closed off to only Tesla vehicles. So, coming up in the next year or so, Ford and GM electric vehicle owners are going to get an adapter so they can go ahead and use the Tesla chargers too, which will open it up. But yeah, it's not the same, right? There's not quick trips, there's not speedways, there's not Wawas. You can't just pull into somebody. There's not Casey's or even Bucky's where you just go get your gas, get a nice hot dog or a piece of pizza, and hop back in the car and go. It's a lengthy process. It can take 15, 20, 30 minutes to charge with the rapid charger. And some of these vehicles, if you charge it at your house, it may take the whole night.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, we finally found a charger, I was telling my story. So we
Hmm.
finally found a charger. That I had no idea. This is several years ago. This is 2020. I know a lot more now, but at the time I didn't. And I was like backing in, and it was like in a grocery store parking lot. It was so weird. And then
Yeah.
I back in, and I'm like trying to stick the thing in the place where you plug it in, and it was like turning orange. And I was talking with the person that sold us the vehicle. He's like, "Oh, that's weird. It's never happened before." I'm like, "Oh, great. Now the thing doesn't work." Finally got the thing to turn green. It took an hour and a half to
Hmm.
charge, and we were freaking sweating our asses off. That was supercharging, or
Yeah.
too, like that. I was like, I don't ever want to, and now I'm traumatized now from that. So
Well, I think that's what's causing a lot of hesitance with people, right? Because how many people have hopped into their car, they're getting ready to drive to work, and work is 30 miles away. They look at their distance to empty on their fuel gauge, and it says you have 40 miles, and they go, yeah, I'm good, and gun it and go because, really, what's the risk? I mean, worst case, you get off an exit and you get some gas.
right.
If you have an EV, you're not doing that
Mm-mm.
because you're not going to want to call into work and say, hey, I'm going to be 2.5 hours late because I ran out of charge, had to wait for the flatbed tow truck to get me. And I'm sitting at the Hy-Vee parking lot right now getting charged up.
What do you
So
think?
it is different.
What do you think about the mechanics? All these mechanics now that have these shops, right? What do they do to prepare themselves to handle these EVs? Because there's not going to be a ton of maintenance on them. It's going to be more
No,
computer updates. You're going to have your brakes. You'll have those types of things. You don't have oil. You don't have an
no.
engine. It's going to be computer stuff. What do you think that these mechanics, like, what do you envision that they're going to do? Because some of them are going to be like, I don't know what to do. Because it's like
Yeah.
going to an IT professional and saying, okay, well, you do IT now. Go sell mattresses.
Well, it's going to be a huge issue that dealerships are going to have to face because there's already a massive shortage of technicians.
Mhm.
I think you could probably go to every franchise dealership in the country, and if there was a moment of honesty, they would say that we could hire 2 techs right now. So that's right now, not changing anything with a minimal presence of EVs. Now that those are coming, the average tech is honestly probably a little bit older than us. You're going to see a huge problem unless dealerships and brands really get behind pushing to drive people into that field. General Motors actually just put out something that I thought was a great idea. They had Dale Earnhardt Jr. talking with computer and IT people in college, encouraging them to get into auto repair, saying that this is the next tech growth sector.
Yep.
And it really is, and it already is now. I mean, that's why I think you've seen a lot of the older techs step away and go to little independent shops where they can do the stuff that they're familiar with because more and more cars are driving computers. And your technician at the dealership, they may not say they're an IT person, but they're an IT person. So much of what they do now is reprogramming the ECU. It's working on computer elements in the cars. So I think you're going to get a moment of decision. Do those technicians want to be essentially computer techs who do a little auto maintenance on the side? Or do they want to just go work a small shop? Because, I mean, obviously, the average age of a car right now is 13 years. It's going to be a long time before internal combustion engines are gone.
Right.
You can make a nice 20-year career just working on internal combustion engines and never have to touch an EV.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's well said. I mean, and I'll tell you this, and I'm a huge proponent, I know you are as well. If you're not buying an extended warranty when you go and buy a car, you're making a very bad decision.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm just going to say this, like, so obviously Auto Agent has extended warranties, and we have amazing deals on them because we don't mark them up as much as the dealer. You want to watch to see what company you're working with and what their reputation is. And truly, there's not going to be any real good reviews about any warranty companies because there's so many misnomers about them. And the people that provide them, they don't educate their clients on them. I think we could do a whole episode on it, but truly,
Sure.
like, especially these electric vehicles, a couple of our companies actually allow warranties on those. Oh my gosh, it's just like you always say, it's a hedge against inflation.
Yeah.
What are they going to what are parts going to do? They're going to go up. What's labor rate going to do? Going to go up. How do you hedge against that? Get a warranty.
I do think EV battery cost will come down,
Yeah.
but they're still going to be real expensive. You got to think about it. It's literally half of the car.
Yes.
Now, the engine, I guess you could say, is half of a current car, but it's not one part. It's like hundreds of parts. If you ever take an engine apart, you'd be amazed how many moving parts are in it. That's a battery. It looks like a giant cell phone
Yep.
battery.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
There's that. There's 4 motors. There's a drive-by-wire connection. That's it. There's not a lot of components. So almost all the cost of the car is tied up in that gigantic battery that's at the floor of the car. So yeah, if you don't get a warranty on that, it's a really bad decision. Unless your plan is, I'm going to drive it till the bumper to bumper's over because I always want to have whatever's next, and this car is gone in 3 years. Okay, that's fair, but you're making a commitment then to constantly be making payments, right?
Absolutely. Well, I think my answer is I don't think we're ready. What do you think?
Not right now. I mean, it's going to take
Mhm.
a lot of innovation and a lot of technology to drive through. And you know, if this comes to fruition, right now it's just a little model. If that 900-mile range battery is ready to hit the market in 26, 27, and it's affordable, Well, that could be your game changer. I mean, RAV4s sell great already. The RAV4 right now has a 5-day supply at dealerships across the country, and that's even inflated because most of those are pre-sold. It's probably really a negative day supply.
Yeah.
How many RAV4s could they sell if you could tell somebody, hey, you're only going to have to charge this thing 4 times a year and you're good?
Oh my gosh, that'd be incredible. Be absolutely
Yeah, I mean,
incredible.
be
Well,
insane.
that's all we have today. I would like to thank everybody for listening. Subscribe to the Auto Authorities on YouTube. Leave your comments below. We want to hear what you have to say. Go to the autoauthorities.com, ask us questions, whatever. But I think this has been a great episode. And do you have anything else that you want to share before we part, Gerald?
Just follow the news. There's new stories about electric vehicles coming out every day, and they're going to start coming out fast and furiously because supposedly the electric revolution begins with General Motors in the 2024 model year. We'll see if it happens.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
See ya.